Good afternoon. We're going to call this meeting to order, and I know the agenda calls for us to rise and for a moment of silence followed by the pledge, but we're going to forego that in this meeting, and we will make sure we do it in the next meeting at 6 o'clock. So we have a public input here in the agenda, but in our presentation this afternoon, we have public input during the presentation, so unless you have something that's not on the agenda to talk about on the public input, we will allow you to come forward at that time when we're in that judicial part of the meeting. Is that okay with everybody? Thank you. All right, so we have 3.01, recommendation to adopt the 2019-20 final millage. And I declare this meeting as a public hearing of the School Board of Lake County, Florida for the adoption of the final millage rates and the final budget for the 2019-20 fiscal year. Mr. Ward will present a brief presentation of the final millage at this time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman Gamble. Today we're going to go over the final millage rates, and the important thing is that we say this publicly prior to the discussion. The rollback rate, we have to define that. The rollback rate is defined as the millage rate necessary to generate the same amount of money that was raised in the prior school year, but using the new property values after adjusting for new construction. I did want to note that because this is the first year we're allowed to levy the additional voted millage, it does not have a rollback rate to compare to. The total millage to be levied is more than the rollback rate by 14.84%, and the required local effort millage rate to be levied is more than the rollback rate by 0.3%. Also, by statute, we are required to state the reasons for increasing any ad valorem tax revenues or our millages. The increase in revenues are needed to increase for the required local effort millage revenue in order to comply with Florida statute 1011.624 and participate in the Florida Education Finance Program. We also have an increase in the non-voted millage revenue in order to receive the state compression funds. And to address, for the voted millage, to address the additional security requirements of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Act, to provide additional student mental health and behavioral support to our schools, and for our capital outlay millage in order to address the capital outlay and debt service needs as advertised.
Superintendent, would you read your recommendation, please?
I recommend that the board adopt Resolution 2019-09, determining the final millages to be levied for the fiscal year 2019-2020. Included are the required local effort, including prior period funding adjustment and millage of 3.885 mils, basic discretionary of 0.748 mils, capital outlay millage of 1.5 mils, and additional millage with a voted levy of 0.75 mils, for a total of 6.883 mils. The revenues generated by this levy total: general operating $129,989,424, and capital outlay of $36,222,206, for a total of $166,211,630.
May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve Resolution 2019-09, determining final millages to be levied for the fiscal year 2019-20, as supported by the FLDOE Form ESE 524.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we will take public input. There's more?
Does anyone wish?
I know, but we're just going to take public input here. Right, does anyone here on this part, 3.01,
Yes.
on the increase of this? Okay,
It's actually probably combined on the millage and just the budget issue is just that the website itself did not contain any real details on this. I was kind of disappointed in the lack of transparency. It had links going to other pages. Scott has since said he's corrected that and updated that information. I will give him a pass this year, because I've looked at his detailed budget. He did share that with me earlier, and it's a very well laid out format, which I like, because you're given 5-year periods. You're also showing and breaking out the different sources of funds and everything. They aren't all commingled with funds in one place and others. And I say that because City of Tavares did that, the Lake County Water Authority did that, and nobody can understand any of them, and they might be a $20 million swing, and you don't know because you don't see the prior periods, and you don't see, they aren't separated into columns. So right now, I think, and I'm well aware of what your cost issues are, and Mr. Mathias probably would tell me everything's okay, so don't worry about it. So because of that, I just would like to ask that maybe you set some sort of a policy that in the future, when you have these hearings on budgets and millage, that you provide details 3 to 14 days before the meeting so that the public can look at them. Because we don't have any reporters covering these meetings at all. They would call like I would and get it, but the word just isn't getting out there about anything. So your credibility, I think, would be improved if you did share that information earlier. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Vance, everything's going to be okay.
All right, no one else in regards to the millage rate? At this time, we have a motion and a second. Board, do you have any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor then, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, Superintendent?
I recommend that the board approve Resolution 2019-10, adopting the final budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year in the amount of $703,098,291 as supported by the FLDOE Form ESC 139-District Summary Budget.
May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. We have any public input? We do have a card from Ms. Cronin. Anyone else that would like to come up to speak on this part of the agenda?
Superintendent, board members, I find it a little unbelievable that you've got a budget here that you want to approve that has no consideration for wage increases whatsoever. SEIU put a wage proposal on the table in April, and we were just told a couple of weeks ago that it doesn't look like there's any money. So I think it's time to sharpen up your pencils and go back and see what you can save some money. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record,
Kathy Smith, LCEA Vice President, and I'm here on behalf of Sturt because he's not available at the moment. He's still stuck at his appointment. But I will ditto Kim because that's what he wanted me to stress is the concern that you are actually voting on a budget and you haven't put anything out for wages at all. Also, teachers, lack of a better word, they're very frustrated, very angry, upset. They keep getting more and more things put on their plate, and when they do, a lot of them are leaving. I'm the one that looks at a lot of your board docs with the people. You've had 400 people almost added since the first part of July, and you've already had almost, it's right at 40 people resign, with 8 of them being less than a month that they were here. What does that tell you about the teachers? Need to think.
thank you. Board, do you have any discussion on this?
So, well, I guess I mean, I would like to inquire. I know a few weeks or maybe a month or so ago when we had our budget workshop, I think we were all kind of taken by surprise that our financial position had not improved that significantly. We're, last of all 67 school districts with our fund balance ratio, just barely over 3%. And it seems like most of the money that we have that is new money to us this year is all full of restrictions, right? The Best and Brightest is the largest chunk of that. The state has said, here's money, but you can only use it for bonuses, and that doesn't help the teachers out very much, and for the retirement. Doesn't help us out very much from the local control side because we can't budget that for wage increases. Yet we want that to be a priority based on the concept of this being a destination district, and people don't want to destine themselves here if they aren't finding themselves with some increases in salary. So I know, administration, you all said that you're going to continue to look at this even after our final approval, right? To figure out how we might be able to maybe milk something out of this budget?
Yeah, I know you share my sentiments that, we certainly want to do what we can for our employees. It is our top priority. And unfortunately, we do have a revenue problem. And so what you're adopting today can and will be amended as we are able to go back and take a look and see if there's anything we can do. We've been looking at allocations based on classrooms and where the growth is, and to see if there's any positions there that we can freeze or do things differently with. And so I know we spoke at the last workshop, and I said just give us a little bit more time to continue to see what we can do. I don't know that the landscape's going to change a whole lot in the next few weeks, but we are hopeful that we're going to be able to find something, or at least bring you some options, more than what we provided to you earlier. So we're still looking forward.
Yeah, I think if that's kind of your mantra going forward, at least in the early part of this year, then that kind of gives you maybe a little pause on spending, right? To think about everything you're bringing forward to us and say, is this going to be more important than a salary increase, right? And look at all those things carefully.
Exactly.
So that way something could possibly come forward. Tonight, I don't think, my support of the budget does not mean I'm opposed to salary increases, right? And I don't think anybody is at this table. But you're right about the revenue problem, and we need to try and get the state to fix that position and how they fund us, so that way we can,
Right.
take care of our employees the way we want to. One other comment I'll throw out there is kudos to Scott on the new format. I appreciated that 105-page document and the way you broke it down with the what each department costs per pupil. I appreciate the per pupil spending and thinking about every student, what they contribute to make each part run, and then also the summary there with each one of what was explaining the any sort of what was driving any sort of increase or decrease in that department's budget in English, as opposed to budgetees terms. So I appreciated that. Well done. Thank you.
I just have a comment, and that is that we understand, because we live it every day, that we have a revenue problem, and that I know that in my conversations with the LCEA and the SEIU, that they want to be active participants in helping us, but it's very confusing. So I would encourage that Scott reach out and spend some time with both organizations so they really have a clear, because we need that buy-in and the transparency. I was here at a time when I first came on the board where that wasn't the case. And I assure you that we want to be open and transparent with this budget process, but also to let you know really where we stand. And it's very confusing when you look at the budget and you have to understand that there's allocations and there's areas that we can spend and can't spend, and why can't you use the money over here? That I think that's very important for both organizations to understand and be partners with us in finding a solution.
And to go along with that, I was at a meeting where a congressman was there at the Cobb's Tractor a couple of weeks ago, and was able to talk to a couple people from Tallahassee. And one of the things that I mentioned to them is that you need to untie our hands and give us the finances we need, and quit taking it from this part of the budget and move it over to here, and you didn't increase the budget at all. And it makes it look like we're getting more money, but we're getting the same amount of money, so therefore it causes a conflict there. So we just need you to quit playing with the budget and give us more money. And so he just kind of chuckled at me, But that's, seriously, that's the deal, is they're telling the teachers, we're going to do this for you, but all they did was just take away from over here to fund it, and they didn't increase the budget, so it makes us look bad. So, but I agree, we've got to dig deep and try to figure out what we can do, because our employees are special to us. And technically, they're superintendent's employees, and we're just the board, but still, to me, we work together on this thing, so, and I appreciate that. Okay, we had our discussion. Is there any further?
I just wanted to say I'm really frustrated by the whole situation also. I feel you, Kim. I'm angry that the state started with a stupid program the best and the brightest is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and they've continued to expand upon it every year, and now it's $400 million of bonuses that we can't turn into raises, and I think it's a complete middle finger to the public. So, with that, let's go on.
I'm not following that one.
All right, all right. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This concludes the required action for the final public hearing on the 2019-20 final millage rates and budget for the Lake County Schools. All required documents will be transmitted to the Florida Department of Education, the Florida Department of Revenue, and the Lake County Tax Collector's Office as required. And as we say, this ends this part of the agenda for this part of the program this afternoon, and we will adjourn and be back here at 6 o'clock.